So with our lovely Miss P, ready, Poppy? Yes, nice job, cuteness. We were going to do a little bit with some loose leash walking, but then also practice a little bit with leash pressure. So I know I've mentioned this with some of the previous pups in other programs. So let's say, again, equipment tends to equal some excitement and some anxiety. The itching, again, could be her being a little bit weirded out by the harness because she hasn't really practiced with it that much. But it could also be the fact that sometimes when puppies get overwhelmed, they'll do other behaviors that bring them comfort. So I know I mentioned for some folks, it could be like playing with their pen and clicking it. For others, when they're anxious, they might be tapping their feet or playing with their hair. So remember, your pup will also come up with behaviors like excessive sniffing or doing like a shake off or other skills that are trying to either calm themselves or the environment or both. So when practicing with Miss P, I don't want her to start thinking that, again, harnesses only come on when we're in this weird place with funny noises. But I just want her to start realizing that, again, when she is feeling a little bit overwhelmed, we're not going to push her past her point. Nice little shake off though, good little reboot. So right now she's working really nice. She actually decided that she really likes some American cheese. So I'm just using a little bit of American cheese for her. She says it's quite delicious. She prefers it over the Colby Jack cheese. So remember, everybody's pups are going to be a little different as to what they gravitate towards for food. So that's why sometimes I even bring some other goodies from home. So ready, Poppy? Yes, nice job. So I did end up switching. I know she has her rope leash, which is perfectly fine. But the rope leash, I don't really love them that much because they tend to be really thick and they're hard to sometimes loop up in your hand. So I prefer sometimes just the flat material. Could be cotton, nylon, biothane material. And if, again, we get some of this jumping, I'm just ignoring the lovely lady. Ready? And I'm going to feed again for all the 4 on the floor. So we're just doing a little bit of loose leash walking. So this could be on the left or the right. If you find it's easier to, again, hold the leash on the same side as the pup and then feed across your body, that is perfectly okay. But if you prefer to have the food on the same side as the puppy, I find that can be the easier of the two. So let's say, for example, I have the food now on the same side as Miss P. I can then use my food to lure her or to feed her while she's comfortably on the side of my body. So if, let's say, I was holding the food on the opposite side, what can happen is by accident, your puppy will try to target that opposite hand and cut across your body. Nice. Beautiful job. So right now I'm just feeding her intermittently throughout this practice. Little tidbits of the American cheese. So I'm breaking them up into little pieces. And again, I'm just feeding her for while she's placing by the leg. If your pup is tending to do a lot of pulling, remember that that could also be a stress response. It could also be, I'm confused and I don't understand what you want. So when it comes to our little lady, too, I'm not saying she has to use a harness, but I do find that for a lot of pups, ready, is if they don't practice the equipment, then every time we put it on, it could be a little bit weird. So it's like a double whammy. She's in the new environment. She hears all these funny noises. She's wearing this new piece of equipment. So it could be also like a little bit of trigger stacking, where it could also create other responses due to the feelings of feeling unknown or feeling weird wearing this gear. So definitely practicing a little bit at home, like we mentioned, could be helpful. But remember, pulling equals pulling. So no matter what piece of equipment your puppy might be wearing, there's nothing in there yet, sit. So if pulling, for example, tends to equal, we get to the bush, we pull to the neighbor and say hi, we pull and we explore more of the environment, then your puppy may start to think that pulling is part of the game. So remember that if the babe tends to do a lot of pulling and they're having a really hard time in the environment, we may want to change up the environment to be more conducive to her learning and figuring out the dance moves before we throw in the difficulty. So for right now, loose leash walking, definitely something I would recommend, yes, to do within the home. She's like, oh, giving up. Oh, what a rough day. Oh my goodness, tell me about it. So let's say your babe, for example, she's like, I need a break. Let's say your babe has not done tons with loose leash walking in calmer environments, but always in the real world setting. That's like me saying, well, let's say my son's starting to learn how to drive, which thank goodness we're not there yet. But let's say he doesn't know how to drive, and I just throw him in a car and say good luck, and he goes on the highway. It may not be the nicest experience for me, for him, or for the rest of the world. So if you're struggling with trying to do the real world setup before given the instructions on how to do it in the first place, then it might just set up everybody for failure, but also frustration, and you might even get agitated because the puppy is still just pulling you everywhere. So if she is really struggling, I highly recommend do this in and around your home and start there. So one of my favorites is also what's called leash pressure. This is not, she's like chewing is for losers. So leash pressure consists of getting your puppy to feel when there's tension on the gear to check in. It's not the same thing. So if she's getting a little tired, she's a little bit mouthy. So we're just going to help her figure out what to do instead. So if your puppy is again offering behavior that you're not a huge fan of, always think, am I maybe working them too long? Are they confused and therefore giving me other behavior? Yes. Could they be a little bit maybe going through a growth spurt, developmental change? So leash pressure is not the same as I've mentioned prior, a leash correction or a leash pop. I don't like to correct dogs when I'm feeling annoyed by what they're giving me for responses, especially when most of those are your dog struggling, feeling overwhelmed, scared, or not understanding the whole spectrum of what you're asking. So for Miss P, for leash pressure, what you'd end up doing is chewing is optional. Have your puppy, ready, sit. Yes, nice job. Have your puppy in front of you, and what you're going to do is do a little pull. And then she's like, lady, what the heck are you talking about? She's like, let's eat it. So if let's say she gets a little confused, I'm going to help her by luring her. So as opposed to me yanking harder or getting upset, what I'm going to do, a little pull and feed. So what this starts to equal is when she feels pressure, pull and feed, is that when you feel a little bit of tension on your gear, it means that I'm going to give you a little reinforcement for checking in. So a little pull and feed. So notice how I'm not changing her behavior. If, for example, she found this overwhelming, you don't want to be applying so much pressure that it's scaring her or startling her. So it's not a yank and it's not a pop. So then when she feels pressure at some point and pulls into the equipment, what you'd be looking for your dog to do is feel the pressure and then do a U-turn and head back towards you. She says, I'd rather be a naked woman though, she says. So if Miss P... She makes me giggle with her harness. Yeah. Oh, Ebba's showing me how she can, oh, that's very nice, rolling around. So again, with Poppy, she's like, no, I've had enough. She's pooped out. So I would recommend do little tidbits. So with leash pressure, this is not going to be a leash correction. So we'll give her a little breather from the gear for just a moment. So if you're looking to gear to create behavior, the problem there is what happens when your dog is off leash, or what happens when you don't always have that gear to bump or remind the puppy. So right now, what she's learning with the leash pressure is as she pulls into it, it means come check in for a paycheck. So if let's say she does happen to pull on her leash because she saw something or she got distracted, ready, Miss P? Then she could at that point feel the tension and come do a check-in. Where before, if pressure equaled blow through it and keep pulling, she's going to start to think that pressure equals ignore, and no matter how much she feels, just keep blowing past it. Hey, Hippo, no roaring like a dino right now. Thank you. Poppy, come. Yes. Oh, she's like, hold on. There was one on the floor. How delicious. So with your lovely lady, remember that chewing is hard. Oh, hawk it up. There we go. Chewing and running is tricky. She's like, I almost got it, guys. My goodness. And those are squishy snacks. So when she, again, is giving you a hard time, she's having one. So if you're finding that you're getting frustrated with her throughout the day, she also is still an adolescent. So she needs a lot of good rest. So for her age group, as much as 18 hours of sleep a day. Okay, 1 second, Ebba, you can come help me. So if your pup is not getting enough rest, I know that you did mention she does nap here and there, but we'd want to make sure that her naps consist of some really good downtime where it's not interrupted naps. If, for example, she's just constantly getting sort of distracted and waking, you may find come the evening or towards the afternoon, she has sort of a bewitching hour. And that's something we want to be careful with, that she's not getting in the rhythm of becoming overtired and then no one's enjoying her and neither is she enjoying her time. So with our Miss P, we'll give her a little breather. She's showing my little one some of the toys off in the distance and we'll go and work a few more skills.